Hey guys, it's Julie Malillo. I'm a life coach here in Manhattan, and today I want to talk about how do you know if a life coach is a good match for you or if they're just scammy. So this is the thing. First of all, even if they are scammy, we have compatibility in life, right? And some people actually want someone scammy for the same reason that lots of scam YouTube videos get a lot of follows and likes. There are people who actually like that. So each to their own, but I'm going to tell you my views of what I think a good life coach is. First of all, they need to actually be a life coach. A lot of life coaches are actually consultants or therapists or something else. You know the difference because they shouldn't be giving you advice. If they're giving you advice, they are a consultant or a therapist. Life coaches legally actually aren't even allowed to give you advice. We're supposed to be asking you questions and managing the process, doing activities, helping you discover the answers for yourself. So if your life coach is saying things like, you really need to read this book, or this is how you have to do it, or the way to do it is, those are some tips that you're probably working with more of a consultant or a therapist, or if they're trying to like dissect your feelings and saying like, oh, how can I articulate this? I think that, we need to look beneath blah, 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 blah. And they're very impressed with themselves. They're not really life coaching. They might be doing therapy. Therapy has a time and a place. It's useful, definitely, in some situations. If you need it, it can be amazing. But that is not coaching, right? So sometimes therapists will offer coaching in addition to the therapy. You might want to ask them some questions about it and see, have they actually been trained in coaching, or are they just kind of calling their therapy coaching? Because they're totally different things. Coaching is supposed to be working in the present moment towards your future goal faster. So you're going to hear a lot of things like, how is it going right now? What are the roadblocks right now? What's in your way? What is your dream? Let's help figure out what your dream is. You're not going to hear a lot of things like, tell me about when you were 4, or, a discussion about the past, about childhood, about tell me the full details of how that person hurt your feelings. That's all therapy territory. So that's good to know if you're looking to talk about, someone hurt your feelings and you want to talk about that for an hour. Therapy is the way you want to go. Coaching is if you're like, okay, that person hurt my feelings, but what do I want to do about it now? Okay, I want to find a new friend. I want to expand my social circle. I want to get back out there and date again, or whatever it is. That would be coaching territory. The next thing is if your coach, I hate to say it, but if they know what they're doing, right? Because a lot of coaches, like anyone can call themselves a coach, right? It's not regulated by the government. So that means anyone, you can call yourself a coach, but that doesn't mean you know what you're doing or are actually going to help people. And you have to be careful too, because if they're actually practicing therapy, that's illegal. They're only allowed to practice coaching. So it's super important that as a coach and as a client, you know what coaching is and what it isn't, because otherwise they're actually doing something illegal, and that's obviously not cool. So they shouldn't be like going into your childhood wounds or, diagnosing you with disorders or anything like that. It should all be in the present moment. You should be working with healthy people. And if you know you're emotionally unhealthy, therapy is the way to go, by the way. So your coach should not be trying to psychoanalyze you. They shouldn't be talking about Freud and Jung and, blah, blah, blah. They should be talking about the present moment. I mean, personality type is one thing that, you can do. But if you're going deep into these psychological theories and talking about like your relationship with your mother and the, blah, 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 that's therapy territory. We're kind of more like, yeah, but what are you going to do about it though? That's really where coaching is. which is not to say that we're not dealing with emotions, but we're dealing with the emotions in the present moment in more of a what's blocking you, how can we get around that so we can move forward way, versus a isn't it interesting to just talk about your childhood for 4 hours kind of way. So it's a totally different thing. Also, coaches don't accept insurance. If they are real coaches, you're not allowed to accept insurance for that. So that's an FYI. You do sometimes have therapists that, of course, all therapists are allowed to accept insurance. And sometimes they call themselves a coach too, but you really need to clarify with them, like how much of that session is going to be coaching and how much is going to be therapy. Are they just calling therapy coaching when it's really coaching? Or are they calling it coaching when it's really just therapy? Because technically, if they're accepting insurance, they shouldn't be allowed to be coaching. So a lot of them do call themselves a coach also. So you want to kind of figure out how that's going to work financially. Like, are they going to charge you separately for the coaching portion? Or are they just kind of calling therapy coaching? You want to be clear on that, because really, who knows? Who knows? I also think it's super important to find out a lot about your coach's background. Like, they should have a website. They should have things on the web. You want to see how long they've been doing this. Like, I've been a coach since 2005 is when I first started, which is crazy. 2005, that was 15 years ago. And then I started coaching in Manhattan in 2007. So most of the time on my marketing materials, I put since 2007, because that's, I'm the Manhattan life coach, right? So 2005, I was still back in Arizona. That's a long time, right? So, by now I'm going to know what I'm doing for sure. But if you have a coach who's brand new, they don't have a history or a track record, then you need to know you're taking a bigger risk, right? It could be scammy. There could be some risk to you. So if you can, use PayPal for the first session, or use, something that gives you a little bit more security. That's the way to go. I always use PayPal with my first session with a brand new client, and that's to protect both of us, because there's actually a lot of scams out there where you have fake clients who are trying to rip you off, weirdly enough. So just for both of our protection, for the first session, I always do PayPal, and then I open up all the other options if they want to pay in some other way, though these days a lot of people really do just prefer PayPal because it's super easy. But keep that in mind. If they're a brand new coach and they want you to, give them a form of payment that might be a little bit difficult to get back if it is a scam, just be aware. Just be aware of that. In my opinion, a brand new coach kind of needs to prove themselves, and they need to do that in some way. So, when I started out, I actually did free coaching in the very beginning when I had no clients, and I'm like, what do I do to get clients? I did free coaching, and that's how I also got practice in, made my mistakes, all of that. And that way there obviously wasn't any risk to the clients. So brand new coaches, you should be expecting to pay a lot less, sometimes even free, but you need to know that this person might not have any training. They might not, you need to ask them, do they have a coaching certification? Now, of course, this isn't regulated by the government, right? So if they have a coaching certification, that could just be their cousin in a garage somewhere, who knows? But most of the time you can look up that coaching school and see, does it look legit? What are they actually learning about, right? That's kind of, it's a lot of work to look into, but it's kind of the risk you're taking versus the research you want to do. So if they're brand new, I personally would expect to be paying a lot less, maybe even a free session. A lot of the time they'll have a free consultation kind of a thing, because they need to prove themselves, right? A more experienced coach, for me, I don't offer free consultations. That would be crazy at this point, because I have proven myself since 2005 that this is what I do and I do it well. So if I gave a free consultation to everyone who wanted one, like I wouldn't have time left to actually coach anybody. But when you're getting started, that's a really good way to win over some new clients, like your first batch of clients. That's a great way to get started. So as a if you're looking to hire a coach, keep that in mind, that the coaches that have more experience and have proven themselves oftentimes won't have a free consultation, and because they don't have to prove themselves, and it's sort of up to you to research them, look into their background, look at what they've done, and you decide if you think that they would be a good match, right? So like when a client comes to me, 9 times out of 10 they just want to book a session. They've already looked into it, they've researched it, they've looked at all the different coaches, right? And they've already chosen that they want to work with me. By the time that they have contacted me, they're ready to go. But with a brand new coach, there might not really be any information on them on the web. Like I have videos, I have tons of articles and books, and I've even been on TV a few times. So anyone who wants to like look into me can do that and find that information out and kind of ask themselves, like, do I think this would be a good fit, right? But a brand new coach, you're just going to have sort of a name, maybe a website with some basic info. It's going to be harder to sort of know if that's a fit. So keep that in mind. You should be paying less for a brand new coach. And if your coach has been doing this for a really long time, which honestly there aren't many coaches who have, because most people stop doing it because it's not easy. It's not an easy career by any means. And, you know, it's hard to get clients. And coaching itself is actually a really hard thing to do. You have to learn a lot of things, and it's not as simple as just having a conversation. It's not giving people advice. So to be able to help someone by asking questions versus by giving advice is something that most people, when they realize that's what it is, they're like, oh, that's no fun. I want to feel like an expert and I want to tell someone what to do. And it's like, no, that's not what coaches do. You have to actually help them figure it out themselves. Most coaches, when they find that out, are like, okay, no, I don't want to do this. Or they have trouble finding clients or whatever, you know, it might not fit them personality wise. So there aren't that many coaches that have been doing it for more than like a few years. A lot of them sort of fizzle out within the first months or year, unfortunately, but that's how it is. So you want to look for someone who either has a lot of experience and that's trustworthy, or they're brand new and they're going to give you something for free. So even if it's a scam, you're not really like, but I mean, even that, you want to be careful because they are going to have your contact information, and you want to make sure that you're not like signing anything that would obligate you to pay them anything. That's really, really important. So make sure you read all the paperwork if they give you any paperwork. You know, everything's a risk in life, right? So you have to sort of decide how much risk you're willing to take. You might find someone amazing who's brand new and will give you something for free, and they might be awesome, but they also might have no clue what they're doing. So the risk with any coach, whether they're an old coach or a new coach, is they can actually make it worse, which is so, so horrible. And I have seen this so many times where a coach, especially these really like egotistical coaches who feel like they're gurus, they will give you advice even though they're not supposed to. They'll criticize you. They'll tell you like, no, you're wrong. Only I know the magical answers, and you know, you shouldn't do this goal, you should do this goal, this career would be stupid for you, this one would be great. And like this kind of thing can be really damaging. When clients come to coaching, even my most successful, awesome, like cream of the crop clients are still having a lot of self-doubt, because that's just the place you're at. If you need coaching, you're doing something new, you're doing something big, you're tearing down part of your life to rebuild it. That is very like emotionally devastating at times. So the last thing you need is someone to just sort of kick you when you're down. And that does happen quite a bit with coaches who really don't know what they're doing but are egotistical and like guru-like. And I hate that so much. It's so damaging because let me give you an example. If you go to a coach and like let's say you hate your job and you really want to start a business, but you just have a little bit of self-doubt, which is normal. That's why we go to life coaches, because we want to deal with things like inner blocks like self-doubt, or outer blocks like maybe there's regulations that are hard to deal with, or outer blocks like you don't know how to get started because the information is like hard to find, whatever it is. And that coach says to you, really, a new business? I don't know about that. Oh my God, this is so frustrating to me. I just want to shake. I want to shake that coach and tell them to shut up. I really do. When I see this, I'm sorry. It's like my number one thing that makes me mad in coaching, because that one statement, which the coach only said that to feel smart and important. Let's be real. That's not something you should ever say in coaching. And that one statement might make that client think to themselves, oh, they're right. I know I was stupid to even think about starting a business. And then they might not do it. They might give up. They might go back to that job that they hate. When that person, perhaps they would have been like one of the greatest entrepreneurs. Who knows, right? But if you don't try it, you're not going to know. So it makes me so angry because when you're in a place of self-doubt, you're looking for someone to tell you no. You're looking for someone to tell you, oh, honey, maybe no. Don't be dumb. Just give up. Just give up. Like you're almost looking for that as an excuse to give up. So when they hear that, it validates all of their fears. And this is normal. It's normal to have fears. That's how all people are, Whenever you're doing something new and big and exciting, most of the time you feel terrible. I mean, that's the reality of it. That's why people have coaches, because it feels so terrible to do something new and something amazing. That's why we have coaches. So when someone is going to sit there and tell you, no, honey, I know best, and I know that you should do this thing that you hate instead. Why don't you just do this instead? And they can derail your path by sometimes years, sometimes decades. Sometimes people never come back from that. So that is the number one thing. If that coach gives their opinion on your dream and they think that they're the expert in telling you the likelihood of you achieving that, get out of there fast, because no one knows. No one is psychic. And I say this in my coaching materials. I don't have a crystal ball, and neither do you. That's the truth. So we don't really know what is fully possible. All we can do is try and see, and then tweak the plan, continue to learn and grow, continue to come back to the drawing board and be like, okay, well, this aspect didn't work. How can we tailor this a little bit? Go back out there and attack it, and then continue to do that. Most of the time, things do work if you continue with that process and you persist past those roadblocks, right? But for someone to pretend to be psychic and say, well, I don't really think your book would sell. Well, I don't think that you're creative enough to make movies. Well, I don't think that you even know anything about business. So why would you even consider being an entrepreneur? Oh, that is an egotistical guru who thinks they know everything. And I personally can't stand that. So get out of there if they're doing that. Now, that's different than a coach asking you a ton of questions about your dream. Why do you want to get into business? What's exciting about it to you? What roadblocks are there, right? Like, let's be realistic about the roadblocks. Like, maybe you don't know anything about business, or maybe you aren't feeling confident about it. Those are very real roadblocks that need to be dealt with. But the coach's opinion is not part of this conversation. Let me say that again. The coach's opinion is not part of this conversation. And that's something for a lot of coaches, that their ego just can't take it. Their ego is too big. They need to feel like they're the expert. They know, blah, blah, blah. It's really common, but it's really, really toxic to you and your goals. You may have encountered this in your personal life when you try to talk about your dreams with people, that they rain on your parade and they say, oh, what do you know? Oh, that's a dumb goal. or they say something a little nicer with the same message, like, is that really your place to be doing that? Is that really your fight in life? Really? And it's like, well, who are they to tell you that? Are they psychic? If they are, let me know, because I want to know what the next lottery numbers are going to be. If they're not psychic, just stop it, And that's one thing when it's just someone at work saying that, or some acquaintance, it's another when it's someone you're paying a lot of money to and then they're destroying your dreams. Okay, so that's my rant on that topic, and I would say that and being a scam artist are probably your biggest risks towards hiring any coach out there. Now, beyond that, you can get into the icing on the cake, which isn't quite as important, but it'll make your experience nicer. Just like some beautiful icing makes your cake look awesome, but it's really the cake inside that matters, right? So not being scammy, knowing what they're doing, knowing what a coach does, not being toxic, those are all your cake. But your icing is things like, do your personality types mesh well? Yeah, it's nicer if they do. If they don't, you can still make coaching work, and you might have some communication barriers at times. You might have to really, make sure you're on the same page if you have very different personality styles. But in my experience, you can make that work if you're a good coach. And if you understand that there are different types of people, there are different viewpoints, and you're accepting of that as a coach. Which is another thing. You don't want a coach who's gonna just judge you, put you in a category, and be like, "Oh, you're one of those." Okay, well then I'm gonna open this folder because you're in these categories. Oh, you're a teacher. Okay, well then you're definitely not gonna ever be an entrepreneur. I'm gonna just X that off. You don't want someone with those preconceived notions and those biases. You want them to be like, yeah, maybe I've worked with 10 teachers and none of them were entrepreneurs, but maybe you are an entrepreneur and you are also a teacher, right? You don't want someone to be too close-minded to these things. So that's your icing, things like personality type, even horoscopes. I know not everyone believes in that, but I personally have noticed that when a client was into horoscopes and they would talk about it and tell me, it was interesting to see. But I don't know, I'm kind of starting to believe in horoscopes a bit. So anyway, whether you believe in that or not, that's your icing on the cake, is those finer details of just things that really aren't essential, but maybe it's nice. Or maybe it's nice if you're in New York and your life coach is in New York too. Right now I'm not meeting with clients in person, but there is somewhat of a connection, just I'm down the street, even though we're not meeting in person. There can be kind of a camaraderie of being in the same exact area. But in my opinion, that's really not important. I've worked with people in other countries even, and it's cool. You can make it work anywhere. But these are just kind of the not so important icing on the cake things. Some people care if it's a guy or a girl. In my opinion, I don't really think that matters too much. I think it matters more if they're a good coach, but someone might want someone who has certain categories or whatever. So that's up to you as the client. And some people like it when a coach is sort of a guru and they're like, ooh, look at my mansion and look at my, ooh, let me, YouTubers and influencers and all that. Some people want to work with someone simply to say, oh, I've worked with this person and look how pretty they're, they live in a mansion or they live whatever. And I'm obviously not that kind of coach. I just really don't care about that kind of thing. And even if I had a mansion, I don't really see how is that going to help you to achieve your dreams, right? So you have to kind of be aware of that, because sometimes the people with a mansion are taking your money but not actually helping you with anything. There's a lot of things out there, especially for coaches, where it's I'm going to tell you all the secrets of how I got 50 billion clients. And it's no, they're not really telling you their real secrets if they're an actual coach, because if you're an actual coach, You don't want competition to steal all your clients away. That's the reality. That's the truth of it. Like a plumber is not going to be like, hey, other plumbers, let me tell you how to get more clients and in fact take all my clients from me, because they don't want their competition to know. Okay, it's different if you're in a non-competitive situation. Like, how can you be a better teacher, right? And because teachers are not competing with other teachers for business in the same way, so that's a little different. But if someone's you're not going to see Pepsi being like, hey Coke, let me tell you how you can get more people to drink your soda. You're not going to see that, because they don't want more people to drink your soda. They want them to drink their soda. Okay, so you have to be very leery if there's someone giving you secret tips and secret information, and that goes not just for coaches, but really there's so much stuff out there. How can you make money on Amazon or money wherever? And it's if they're really making money with those things, they don't want you to know their secret, because you're going to be taking customers away from them. So that means they're making their money off of selling you something versus versus actually telling you the secret. So keep that kind of thing in mind if you see one of these guru types who's like, let me give you all the secrets. Because guys, there aren't secrets. There are techniques, there are approaches that work really well, but those are not secrets. And the truth is, you have to work for all of it. None of it's just going to be magically poof. Even the law of attraction and the secret and all that, which I buy into parts and parts I don't buy into. But visualization and things, it definitely helps, but you still have to do stuff. It doesn't just in 5 minutes, poof, So if someone's promising you things that are just not realistic, that's another flag. We'll put that in the cake category, not the frosting, because that is sort of more of the scammy aspect. But yeah, those are more your frosting. On the cake is do you like these finer details about them? Do you care if maybe they have a certain specific type of experience? Which the thing about coaches is they're not really supposed to be experts on you and your life. So whether they have experience with something really shouldn't be entering into it. In a weird way, it's better if they don't have experience in what you're doing, because otherwise they might chime in and be like, oh, you know what you can do, because I used to do this and blah, blah, blah. And it's almost better if they don't have the experience or can just control themselves enough to be like, no one wants your unsolicited advice. Let them do what's best for them, not what's best for you. But still, there are some people who are still in that consulting mode where they feel like I want them to have this specific experience that I had. So if I'm an actor, I want my coach to be an actor too, or whatever, which for consulting is awesome. Consulting is when someone is telling you what to do. They're giving you advice. They're saying, okay, as an actor, this is the advice I would give you. But that's not what we do in coaching. In coaching, we're like, what kind of actor are you? Even if I'm an actor too, I'm a different kind than you are. I have a different path in life. I have different talents than you do. So I'm going to ask you questions about what kind of actor you want to be, what roadblocks you have, what your goals are, what you want to work on, what freaks you out, what mountains do we have to climb here. That's going to be more the coaching work we do. A consultant would be giving you straight up advice. And in that case, you would want someone with specific experience, because anyone who's giving you advice should know what they're talking about. I mean, obviously. But coaches are not giving you advice, and if they are, they're really not coaching. They're consulting, or they're doing therapy or something like that. So that's just a few of my tips on how to avoid some of the bad things that can happen if you try to hire a life coach. And usually these things pop up really quick. I know years ago I was looking for my own life coach, and I emailed a few people and I got back some super scammy replies. One of them actually started arguing with me and was like, no, you shouldn't be working on this goal. You should be working on that goal instead. And let me tell you why. And blah, blah, and wrote me like 2 pages, which was completely inappropriate. And I'm like, I'm sorry, this is not a fit. Then he went into a rage and was like, how dare you, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, this person has problems. And that's scary to me that person is out there working with people who, they're not a coach. They don't know what he's supposed to be doing, and they might think that's normal. So it's kind of why I wanted to make this video is those people are out there, and if you don't know what a coach is, you're not going to know, right? Like what they should be doing, because it's not your job. You're not supposed to even know that. So it's up to them to do it the right way. But as a potential client, I hope that this can just clear up some of those misconceptions about what coaches actually do. They shouldn't be giving you advice. They shouldn't be telling you that you're wrong and they're right. Of course, you have certain criteria that every coach has. So, like, to continue to work with me, I have certain criteria that you need to do. Like, you need to do your tasks every week. You need to choose a task every week. Because otherwise, we're just talking, right? And that's not what I do. My coaching is action-focused, as all coaching should be. You should be taking action every week, even if it's tiny actions. The client is deciding what you're capable of right then. So if you can't do one thing, you should at least be choosing an action that's like within what you can handle. So anyway, I hope that was interesting, guys. My name is Julie Malolo. I'm a life coach here in Manhattan. I have been coaching, as I said, since 2005, 2007 in Manhattan. And my website is yourdreamslifecoach.com. So if you go to my website, you can click on the little blue box in the upper right-hand corner, and you just click on that box and you can get rates. You just fill out the form. Make sure you include your email address. Sometimes people don't, and then I have literally no way to contact them. Like, again, I'm not psychic. I don't know who you are. So you need to put your email address, and then I will email you back all of my rates and info on how it works, and then you can read it and decide if that's what you want to do. Also, the kind of coaching that I do, it's very free-flowing in that I don't control my clients. I'm not like, you have to have this package, you have to sign up for blah, blah, blah. Instead, I'm like, listen, when you want a session, you come to me, we will have our session, and then you go back out into the world. And the thing is, clients really know when they need coaching and when they don't. And with all of my clients, there are like periods of time where you need a lot of coaching. Like you are just dealing with like so much stuff. You need that coaching. And sometimes people will do many sessions in 1 week. Especially like entrepreneurs or startups or whatever. You have a challenge comes up, or, maybe you're a dancer and you get injured and you're just like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And again, the coach isn't going to tell you what you do, but they're going to help you work it through so that you make your own decision, right? But then there's other times where you're like, wow, things are like just rocking and rolling. Like, this is awesome. Things have just fallen into place. I'm just honestly thrilled with how everything's going. Really, the only reason to contact your coach at that point is to just be like, hey, I'm happy things are going awesome. Like, yay. And then your coach can be like, yay, that's awesome. That's it. You don't need to have a session to just be like, yep, things are awesome. Okay, this is good. But you do need a session when you're like, okay, things are awesome, but now I actually think I'm ready to start this or that or the other thing, or, take something to the next level, expand something. That's the time you want to get back into coaching. So because of that, all my sessions are session by session, and I have certain things with that. You have to give enough notice and all that. But basically, it's like a standalone session. You're not obligated to do one a week for a period of time or whatever. Because what ends up happening is the same thing with like your gym membership, where you like intend that it's going to go one way, and then you find that like, oh wow, I haven't had time for the gym at all lately, and I just wasted a bunch of sessions. So that's why I do standalone. So every time that you book a session, you 100% need and want that session, you know it's going to make a big impact, you know it's going to be efficient and useful, and then we just attack everything in that 1 hour, and then you go off and you do your stuff, and that tells you if you need more, right? Like you go off and do your stuff, and then you're just like, wow, okay, there's still so many things I need to figure out and fine tune. And so then you're like, yeah, this is a phase in my life, I need a lot of coaching. But then, as I said, things start going awesome, and you're like, yeah. And at that point, you almost start coaching yourself. You start remembering some things we talked about, some of the exercises and activities we did. And then you start doing it yourself. And then you will find you actually need less coaching over time. Of course, when you have like a big thing, like you're starting a new business, or you're moving, or you had a breakup, or you want to find a new relationship, whatever those big things are, you still might want to get back into coaching, simply because it does work well and it's efficient. But anyway, yourdreamslifecoach.com to get my rates. And if you want to get started, I do phone sessions for now, just with the time period that we're in, and in the future I will return to my in-person sessions once New York City, I guess New York State has already returned to a lot of stuff, but New York City is just still hasn't even opened our restaurants yet, so it's not in person yet. But phone sessions nationwide, and we can even do worldwide on Skype and things like that. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope this is really helpful. And whether you work with me or work with somebody else, I hope that your coaching goes great and that you achieve all of your dreams and goals. Thanks for watching, guys.